Appreciate that, and want to welcome everybody again today. I'm going to take this mask off, but one of our listeners and viewers sent this to me, and I thought it was a lot of fun. So we wanted to kind of start out with our for you all with seeing our mask. Got a lot to talk about today. Want to start out as we typically do with our hot topics, and we've got some mixed news in it, some good, some bad. The USA, we always start a little bit with the COVID. As you know, the USA has seen a a decline in the COVID cases, about 29% within the last week. And as of January 8th, the daily cases were at about 845. And as of this week, they've dropped to 321,000. So about a 38% drop. That's wonderful. That we've got it going in the right way. So good news there. Most recent data on the international numbers, cases are down 16% worldwide this week. Again, more good news. But sad news is that yesterday we passed 500,000 deaths due to COVID here in the United States. But there has been a 10% drop in the number of global deaths. So we have it going the right way. That's good news. On park openings, over 45 U.S. parks have announced opening dates. We mentioned a little bit of that last podcast. Most are spring and late spring dates. All are hoping that these dates that they have announced will pan out and come to fruition. Some are still in limbo. In California, where parks have been completely closed the majority of 2020 and are still closed, Great America was the first to announce an opening date of May 22nd. So we certainly hope that they hit that. We're continuing to see incredible confusion in California among the leisure industry, parks and operators. There's a group of legislators now in California that are pushing a bill that would allow parks to reopen responsibly. And as an industry, we know that they certainly can do that. They've demonstrated that in other parts of the United States. Over in Europe, theme parks in England may be able to open again as early as April 12th, depending on British government rules this week that are coming out. Disneyland Paris is scheduled to open April 12th. There have been no relaxations in the Dutch amusement parks and zoos, and the lockdown is going to remain in effect until March the 15th. Europe faces longer lockdowns amid some of the botched vaccine rollout, even though the UK seems to have made some positive strides. In Germany, the non-essential stores are going to remain closed at least until March the 7th, and schools for younger students in more than half of Germany's 16 states reopened yesterday, so that was good news. Not sure how this is going to impact the park schedules, but it's looking positively. South America is still rampant with COVID. Mostly all attractions are closed. Some are open, but most are closed. Many companies are restricting entry to travelers who have traveled to a variant hotspot country, including UK, Brazil, South Africa. So we're still waiting and watching on how well South America and Central America and Mexico contend with the COVID shots. Today, Six Flags put out their announcements for their full year of 2020. It was pretty much as expected. Attendance was 6.8 million, a decline of 26 million from 2019. Total revenues for 2020 were 357 million for the parks that were allowed and able to operate, which was a decline of $1,131 million from 2019. They've done a good job of getting their costs under control. like everybody has in the industry, but still been it's still been a hard impact to them. Legoland Shanghai is announced today they're going to begin construction on their new property. And here in the United States yesterday, Hershend Entertainment announced that they're going to take over the majority of Kentucky Kingdom operation in Louisville, Kentucky. So we wish them well with that operation, and we know that they'll bring a tremendous positive impact to that. Before I introduce our guest today, I want to thank Chloe Hausfeld, Director of Marketing and Business Development over at JRA. She's done an amazing job this last week of announcing our guest, David Rosenberg. And Chloe's a great person with a great organization over at JRA. And she had a lot of fun doing this. These were her ideas and on how to introduce David. And we just thought it was a lot of fun. Our guest today is David Rosenberg. He's Vice President of Guest Experiences at the Monterey Bay Aquarium out in California, one of the world's greatest aquariums. David is responsible for daily operations, public and fee-based programming. He handles the volunteer docent programs, interpretive training, and is chairman of the Visitor Experience Steering Committee. Graduate of University of Arizona. He began at Walt Disney World and held several positions in human resources and operations management, so well-trained. He spent over 11 years progressing through the ranks of the Hyatt Hotel Corporation. And after a hiatus from our industry, he returned in 2007 to take over the position that he currently holds today at the aquarium in Monterey. He's served extensively in IAAPA, including David is a past chairman. He's won the service award. He's been a recipient of that. He's the past chair of IAAPA Zoo and Aquariums Committee, and he still serves on a lot of the committees. So with that background, I'd like to welcome David Rosenberg. David, if you'll come in and join us, please.
Hi, good morning, Dennis.
How are you? Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
David's out in, he's in Tahoe. He's with his family on presidential break over here, and I believe you're skiing every day. Is that correct, Dave?
Yeah, we're right up here in the mountains, and got our first getaway since COVID began almost a year ago. So it's been fun to get up here on the slopes and get some good skiing in. So
well, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. You're the first individual we've had from the aquarium and zoological sector to join us, and we felt it was really important to get somebody in to talk about the impact of COVID and what's happening, the good, the bad, the ugly, and where we're looking at in the future. And we couldn't think of anybody better than you to join us because of your history and your activity in the industry. So thanks again.
Well, thank you. Thanks.
Let's, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump right in. You know, we've had this cold bucket of water dumped on us this last year. And I think as an industry, leisure industry, all segments have learned a lot. And I thought maybe we'd start out with how it's impacted Monterey Bay Aquarium, one of the greatest aquariums in the world, and what you've had to do, and maybe just give us a little bit of insight into what you've had to do, including some of your virtual learning and training.
Of course. Yeah, well, it goes without saying, obviously, this has hit every single sector of our industry and hit it very differently. And so, you know, for us and for zoos and aquariums in general, we definitely, especially when COVID first started, had we all shut down. But the difference for us is when we shut down to our visitors. We obviously don't shut down to our animals. And so
Right.
our cost of maintaining and keeping our animal collection healthy and thriving still exist, as well as the rescue programs that we're all associated with, and most of our zoos and aquariums and museums are also mission based. And so, our mission doesn't go away either. So while our doors might have closed to our visitors, we still have been very much in full operation, as have most zoos and aquariums throughout the world. And so, so that's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge
Yeah.
to do what we need to do. What does that mean to us in Monterey? We on a normal year for us, our visitation was roughly around 2 million visitors, plus or minus a little bit. We have very healthy gate, so we have very healthy gate, but we also have very solid, very loyal donors and members that support us, and that's allowed us to build up our reserves over the years, and that's the money that we've been using to do just that, to keep our rescue programs going and our animals healthy. And so it's been an interesting year for sure. But again, I know I'm only speaking as one of many attractions that are experiencing the same challenges. Here in California, we're still closed. We of course hope to get open, but we follow the California roadmap to a healthier economy, and the way that is set up is we are all in different counties. The counties individually the COVID numbers are tracked in those counties, and over time, as it progresses, then we will hopefully have the opportunity to reopen our doors. So we're really keeping our fingers crossed that day comes sooner than later, because we're going on a full year now of closure for us.
Well, we
Um,
know, David, that you depend heavily on your donors, your memberships. You're a 501 and a non-for-profit, and you've done an amazing job. We've seen that through the years with the aquarium and keeping that up. How are you? What's the experience been for this year in keeping connected with the aquarium's members and ultimately the guests? What have you had to do, and how have you approached that?
right. It's been really interesting, of course, because of the opportunity to connect online. It's something we've always wanted and always tried, and we've always had some level of success. But now this is our only connection, and our viewership online has gone up fourfold. It's been substantial. Our reach is now international, and definitely throughout the United States. And it's really caused us to regroup and be very creative with how we're connecting online. So we have great our webcams. If you haven't seen them, they're
Yeah.
amazing. We've taken our webcams and we do live feedings on our webcams, so that people have a reason to tune in every day. We have online gaming that we've started, and that's been very successful. We just through direct connection as well. And so we've been communicating with visitors, or with potential future visitors. So there's been a lot of connections made online, and those are connections that we believe are going to lead to loyal members in the future, loyal donors in the future, and connections that we're going to be able to carry all the way through. So it's
So is
been
this something, David, that the aquarium will continue uh, promoting, and as a new arm to reach new guests and continue to connect with your donors?
Absolutely. And I think a good example is we would typically bring in close to 100,000 school children free of charge every year. Well, of course, the biggest challenge of getting those school children in is getting them here.
Yeah.
A lot of them, it's the first time they've seen the ocean, the first time they've been in an aquatic atmosphere. And so but now by us reimagining how we do our school programming, we're reaching school programs throughout the country, and definitely throughout California. So it's really allowed us to increase our reach, And we're going to continue to put a lot of focus on that. And that's just become a new way that the aquarium is going to connect with people.
When, having been in the business a long time, I've actually operated some animal facilities and a lot of dry facilities. We've always said at the end of the day, when I'm operating a theme park, I can walk out, flip the lights off, hit the switch, come back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, turn it on, and everything goes. But you have that ongoing feeding, medical, safety, security with the animals. Has that changed at all during the pandemic? Has it heightened? And it's just an expense that's been ongoing, I would assume.
Right, right. Absolutely. We have not altered the animal care one bit over the last year. In fact, in some ways, our need for our animal rescue programs has gone up, not down, throughout the year as more people are home and seeing stranded animals. Or it's so, definitely that was our goal, is never to do anything that would impact our animals, and we've done that up till now. Now the question comes up: do the animals miss seeing people? And
Yeah.
I think if you ask my non-scientific mind, I would say absolutely. They want to see people. Our otters, they love to play with people through the glass. And the penguins play with our people. So I think that they've gotten very used to the staff, because they see the same staff every day, but they're definitely not seeing the visitors that come through and enjoy seeing them as well.
So with that point, you've mentioned the aquarium draws about 2 million people a year, which is phenomenally significant and a major number in our industry. So do you think this is going to, depending on what happens in California and the industry in whole, how do you think this is going to ramp up, and how quickly do you think that the attendance will get back to the pre-COVID 2019 numbers?
Obviously, that's a great question, because do we think we're going to get open sooner than later? Yes, we hope to. But we don't know exactly when that is. But as the COVID numbers keep going down in the United States, we hope that gets allows us to open up. But I think the word "open" is going to be redefined. We're definitely not going to just open up the doors and operate like we did before. We will have limited attendance. We will have reservations for if you want to come. We will be it'll be one-way flow through our different galleries, which definitely creates what's going to be a fantastic visitor experience, but definitely it's going to allow us to bring in fewer visitors. And so, what is my projection for the year? It definitely, we're going to start slow, and I sure hope that we are able to continue to crack that door wider open, and eventually get back to what those normal operations would look like. But it's going to be unique. Now, like I said, I think it's a great opportunity for visitors, because what is the biggest challenge that we all deal with in the attractions industry is we want the crowds, but crowds aren't necessarily good for visitor experience. And so visitors are really going to get a rich experience when they come in, and we're doing our part of making sure that we keep distancing alive.
Well, you've been in operation now, the aquarium. It's hard to believe. I remember when it opened, we came out 35 years ago. I believe it's 35 years this year. And we've said several times here how popular and successful it is. What do you think have been the main contributors to that success? I mean, in a dry park, we put in a roller coaster. It's longer, it's higher, it's faster. Or we put in a vertical ride, and it takes you higher and drops you quicker and spins you around. What's the formula that Monterey Bay Aquarium has used, and what's the formula that's used throughout the industry to continue to preserve and grow the attendance? What are you doing?
And I think I can tell a couple of good stories with that, because back in 1984, so David Packard is the founder of the Monterey Bay Aquarium. He's the Packard of Hewlett Packard.
Hewlett Packard, sure.
And so this was a project of his as he was starting to retire out from running Hewlett Packard. He was building the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and he brought in lots of great consultants at the time. He should have brought you in, Dennis, but he brought other consultants at that point, and they said that you are going to get maybe up to 1 million visitors a year. So build your attraction for 1 million visitors. And
Interesting.
and so a lot of our attractions were built for that. And of course, that first year, it was well over 2 million visitors that came through the doors. So right out of the gate, we just had a really successful model that a lot of people wanted to come and see us. Over the years, we started with one wing. About 15 years ago, we built the open sea wing. The anticipation, actually closer to 20 years ago now, that it was anticipated that when the open sea wing was built, that visitation would go up significantly, as well as the length of a visit. And it did that first year, but by year 2, it was the visitor length was wasn't much longer. Just meant that people moved faster through the attraction to see different things, and the visitor numbers stayed closely to the same as well. So it's even building a whole new area, it really kind of kept us right at that 2 million person mark. So what is the secret sauce? In our case, first of all, as you said, we're a nonprofit organization, which in the United States means, for one thing, that we have a mission that we're trying to follow. We're trying to do something in addition to be an attraction, and in this case, it's to inspire conservation of the ocean. So that's the mission of the Monterey Bay Aquarium. That resonates very well with a lot of people, and so people want to be part of that. They hear that mission, they want to come and see that. So that's one thing that's helped us to be successful.
Interesting.
The second part is we are always doing cutting edge research. Our animal exhibitions are state of the art and tend to be ones that may or may not have been done in other parts of the world yet. And so we're always trying to innovate and make sure that we're leaders on that. In fact, next year, we're going to be opening up a new exhibition about the deep sea. And in our anticipation, that's going to be the first of its kind, where animals from the deep sea, which most of us have never seen before, that is undiscovered.
Is that your roller coaster for next year?
That is our roller coaster for next year, and it's well underway now.
Very cool.
And that will come to fruition, and that's a partnership between us and the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, which is that we have underwater ROVs that are out researching the deep sea, and so we're really going to bring that together and doing things like that. I think that also has really helped us to stay where we are and stay
absolutely
top notch. One last thing, Dennis, just while I'm on that, I think it's easy to say, hey, you're a mission-based organization, and people don't you don't go out as your tagline and say, hey, I come learn with us. People that doesn't really get people through the door. People come through the door because they want to enjoy their vacation, enjoy their travel. And so my goal is to get people in to have a great vacation, a great time with us, but then by the time they leave, to also inspire them. So get them in the doors to have fun, have them leave inspired. That's the goal of that.
Well, you've done a great job with that personally, and so has the aquarium. David, if you've watched us in the past, we're starting to get a lot of questions rolling in now, and I'm going to feed you some of those questions if you don't mind as we go. This one's from Philip. He said, "I understand that the Monterey Aquarium is a 501c3, as some aquariums are for-profit. What are the main differences in how aquariums operate if a non-for-profit organization, and what are some of the biggest challenges in working at a non-profit attraction versus a for-profit?" Sorry, I'm getting my tongue twisted here a little bit.
Yeah.
Hopefully you got the gist of that.
And well, thanks, Phil, for that question. That's definitely a lot of profits in there. I think one of the biggest differences, and keep in mind for myself, I come from the for-profit industry, so this was the first time I was at a non-profit. And I think that builds a little bit on what I was just talking about. So as a nonprofit, we have tall marching orders. We have a mission. We have a board of directors that oversees us, the governance of us, and helps us to ensure that we're marching towards that mission. So um, our focus at the end of the day is, did we inspire 2 million visitors to protect the oceans? Are we doing our part to make sure that we're helping the health of the oceans? And that's the overarching theme, and everything feeds up to that. As a for-profit, of course, we have great missions as well, but at the end of the day, it's just that word. We need to make sure that we are turning a profit to do such. And so and so that just creates a little bit of a nuance in the operations as to what we're marching towards and how we're going to get there. And so we all want to attract our visitors. We want to make sure that people are coming through the doors. We want to, like I said, we want to make sure they come in, have fun, connect, engage. In my case, I want to make sure they leave inspired. As a for-profit, we want to make sure that they want to stay connected, inspired, but that also that they're going to help us to turn a profit in the long run.
Here's another one. This is from Terry. It says, how important are the docents that we mentioned at the top of the show to the aquarium? How many volunteers are there during a normal, I should say, annual operation? And how do you keep them engaged?
Yeah, well, we're very lucky that we have a great a great volunteer base of roughly 1,200 volunteers, 1,200 volunteers.
Wow.
And they're in all areas of the aquarium. But that is, when you say secret sauce, I would say our volunteers are definitely one of the biggest parts of our secret sauce, as they help to have conversations with visitors throughout their visit, and they're always engaging with our visitors. In Monterey, we're a beautiful community right on the ocean, but we're small, and it's almost like a club for a lot of people that live in Monterey, because they all come together, they volunteer. Our volunteers are very close with each other. It's become this just a self-perpetuating machine that really builds a lot of dedication and a lot of service that we're very lucky with at the aquarium. A lot of passion comes out from our volunteers, and I can't say how pleased we are with what the volunteers do. Just one last note with the volunteers. We treat our volunteers just like staff, and I think that's some museums say,
Excellent.
wow, how do you manage 1,200 volunteers when some volunteers don't show up, as a loyalty? Our volunteers punch in when they arrive, they punch out when they leave. Of course, they don't get paid, but we keep track of their hours. We recognize them for their hours. If a volunteer is late, they're allowed a certain amount of tardies before they're treated just like a staff member. And as such, it makes them feel like they're part of that staff. And so we call them the unpaid staff, and they feel and they operate like the unpaid staff, and it just runs very smoothly for us.
David, in that program, I'm assuming you work with them and you give them some opportunity to bring their families and their friends to the aquarium as part of their recompense for being involved. Would that be true?
Yeah. Part of their they definitely, that's one of the benefits, is they get a pass that they can bring members and family. But we always say the payment for them is one, that community that they're part of. And the second part is every time they report for a shift to work, we have a class, basically like a pre-shift, which is 30 to 45 minutes long, and they learn a new tidbit of information. And so one of our scientists, one of our educators will speak, and they'll have a great class where they learn a lot about the aquarium or the ocean or something that they want to learn about. And so it's a weekly pill of knowledge that they gain, and a lot of them look at that as the payment in itself.
That's amazing. I think you guys have done an amazing job of, I always like to talk about, as my sign says behind me, I'm for fun. I think you've done a wonderful job of blending entertainment and fun with the educational aspect. And you've done it in a way that obviously the numbers reflect that when you're getting 2 million people a year. That's fabulous. So Got another
Thank you.
question from you. This is from Heidi, and it says, David, you may know some of these names as they're rolling in. How do you measure your success in inspiring conservation? How do you measure your success in inspiring conservation?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways. First of all, our audience research is very important in our organization, and I know definitely in museums in particular, audience research is a big part about how they operate. And so, in our case, we work with a company that does a lot of data collection for us on our visitors, and reports back to us on a regular basis. And a lot of the areas that we're researching and studying is customer experience, educational experience. Did you feel inspired? Did you stay connected? And so we look at all those metrics, and that's partly how we're able to carve our visitor experience. The second part is that word connection. And this is where we were talking earlier about what online has brought. It's we always wanted to make sure that we stayed connected afterwards. If those visitors come to the aquarium, they want to and they leave and they want to stay connected with us, that's a success, because then we're able to continue on a relationship. And so that's a big measurement of our success in the past. And I can't wait to see when we reopen what that's going to look like, because now we can engage with our visitors before they come, help them plan their visit, during the visit, which is the sandwich meet, and then the bread on the end is going to be stay connected with us afterwards, or we're going to continue to engage. And I think that's,
and then put a little of that secret sauce in there, right?
And a little bit of secret sauce and everything else that goes in between. Yes. And,
here, David, here's another one from initials or JM. It says, David, what's been the benefit and challenges of the international exposure that the virtual experience has brought? Has that helped you?
Absolutely. It's in so many ways. First of all, from just a donor and a member basis, we have established members and donors definitely throughout the United States and beyond. And a lot of that is just people that want to be part of what we do. So people want to support us, people believe in our mission, and they want to connect with us. And so we're seeing a lot of that, those connections being built that we didn't have before. And so it's basically reaching a whole nother audience, the audience where we always focused on the ones that came to visit us. Now we're also able to focus on audiences that exist that may or may not ever see us in person.
That's neat. And these things, coming back to my earlier question about 4 ago, these are things that you'll just continue on and build upon in the future. Probably things that you wouldn't have started maybe as at this point in time if we hadn't had a pandemic. So it's things that are going to help you.
Well, I think, I mean, this is everybody in our industry. It caused us to innovate, and we've always innovated in that area, but we really opened our eyes in ways that we never did in the past to just new opportunities. And of course, we're not going to let those go.
Here's one from Carlton. He says, and I hope this is spelled correctly. It says, your aquarium, David, has always been a leader in ensuring seafood can be more sustainable. How has this been impacted through the pandemic, and will that continue? Is that correct?
Yeah. No, thanks for bringing that up. Most likely what you're referring to is what we call the Seafood Watch program. And a fun story that started from an exhibition, almost 20 years ago, and Cooking for Solutions. And it was a temporary exhibition where visitors would come and they see what was a good choice and a bad choice for the ocean. So if you pick this choice, it might taste good, but maybe it's not the best choice for ocean health, or vice versa. If you pick this, they're plentiful in the ocean, and that's a good choice. But what we weren't doing is people left and said, well, how can I continue this? I just saw some of this. This is really cool. And I want to continue on with that. And we didn't have that in place. So that caused us to create what we call the Seafood Watch program. And that is scientists coming together and helping to inform you, the consumer, what a healthy choice and a non-healthy choice is for the oceans, and hopefully for you as well. And the Seafood Watch program has just blossomed and over the years, and it's not only helping consumers, but it's helping chefs and companies and corporations that have all signed on to be part of the Seafood Watch program to help to make those decisions. So it's what started as a small exhibition is now considered a global effort, and it's
Wow.
very well recognized, definitely throughout the United States and beyond.
Here's another one from Gene. It says, in the dry parks, the ride parks, we know that a lot of data and information is shared at IAAPA on an annual basis. Not being a member of the AZA, does the AZA open up as dramatically as the dry parks and other leisure indoor and outdoor parks open up? In other words, exchange information. I guess does SeaWorld work with Monterey Bay Aquarium and et cetera?
Yeah, it's a very, very close knit community, the zoo and aquarium community. And so I think definitely the answer is yes. Also, as nonprofit organizations in the United States, we definitely, there's a lot of disclosure about, we report out on where all of our finances come from, how they're spent, down to the dollar. And so it's very, very open with that. But AZA, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, allows us, all the accredited organization, zoos and aquariums, we come together, we share best practices. We have accreditation, which is a very, very rigorous process that our institutions go through to make sure that we are operating the very top best manner. And so that's very transparent, very open, and we're always sharing our best practices between each other. So whether it's SeaWorld or another zoo or aquarium, we're very open with each other, and we definitely want to make sure that we each share our best knowledge.
That's great. That's good to hear, because we know as an industry on the broader side that that's done. So it's wonderful to hear that that's done in your arena and world too. And that's why you were elected chairman of IAAPA to bring that in, which prompts the next question from Thomas. He said, "I'm happy to be a part of the zoological world, and I was happy to see you become chairman of IAAPA several years ago." He says, "What do you feel was your biggest accomplishment during IAAPA?"
And great question. So it was 2 years ago, and where I got to serve as chair, and what a great year it was. The international attractions were
Yeah,
thriving, and just growing around the world. And so definitely that was a great year to serve as chairman. But I was lucky to be the first chairman to come from the zoo and aquarium community,
right.
and so I hope I served everyone well. But that was one of the big goals of mine has always been to show the importance of zoos and aquariums and what we play to the overall attractions community. And at the end of the day, an attraction is an attraction. We are all we all operate with a lot of the same premises, a lot of the same goals, a lot of the same missions, and that is something that is great, and why I've enjoyed being part of the Attractions Association. We all learn from each other. Zoos and aquariums, we learn a lot about animals from each other, and a lot about operations, but we all learn from each other, all attractions, about the best practices in operation, the best ways to make sure that our visitors stay connected and want to come back with us. And that's why it's important that we look at all the different sectors in the attractions, and we learn from all those different sectors, so they all have different parts to contribute to that. And hopefully I helped to get that message out throughout the year as well.
Well, I can tell you, as a member, you did, and you did a great job doing that, and it was very much appreciated. And as I said, we were happy to see somebody from this sector come in and take over at the helm for a while, and you did a great job. Here's another one from Connie, and it says, Your primary responsibility, you indicated, at the aquarium is many things, but one, to oversee the guest experience. Those of us in the industry know how important this task really is. Without a positive guest experience, you have no guest, as you said. Can you give us a quick overview of what are your top 5 goals regarding creating a superior guest experience? Long question, sorry.
Yeah, no, excellent, excellent. We and so when we say visitor experience, we consider the pretty much the aquarium as the visitor experience, right? So that's we do a lot of things, our research, our education, but the aquarium with the 2 million visitors come to, that is our visitor experience. And it's important that we think of it that way, that we don't think about visitor experience as being or the guest experience as the interaction of customer service or the interaction that happens in a program. It's all part of the guest experience. That's why I always make fun of my title, because we say guest experience, but people don't understand that we're trying to say that's our aquarium. That's what people remember us for. And so the top 5 goals, I think I'll just kind of throw out a couple. One is a consistent experience from the time you book your ticket till the time you leave. And what I mean by that, one thing that I always notice, I shouldn't say I always notice, but in what I would consider to be a great attraction, a really perfectly ran attraction, the experience from the time they book the ticket, it matches from the time they arrive and they're waiting in line to when they go through the ticket counter to the people that they interact with throughout the visit. And a lot of times that's disjointed because it's different departments, it's different training, it's people that have different reasons that they feel they're there. And so our goal has always been to create that all the way through. So whether you're talking to one of our 1,200 volunteers, one of our 600 staff members, you're going to have that same interaction. So same from start to finish. Human interaction is key as well. So we're going to do everything we can to get human interactions to happen as many times as possible. If a visitor talks to somebody with a name tag on at the beginning of their visit and they have a good interaction, they're most likely to continue that throughout the visit. If they do what I do when I drive, I don't like to ever stop for directions. And likewise, if a visitor does that, they're most likely not going to talk to a human throughout their visit. So we really put a lot of emphasis on the beginning, trying to start those human connections so that they have that through their visit. And one of my coworkers he always quotes the mission as being, people come looking for the animals, they leave remembering the people. And that's because we're trying to create those great visits all the way through. So I think that's a couple of the things that we try to do throughout the visitor experience.
Yeah.
The last big one is we have different touch points, everything from, again, you have to get your ticket, to the mechanics of our operation, to we're going to turn on over 35 programs throughout the day to reach broad audiences. So we have lots of different types of ways that we engage our visitor through a microphone, all the way through to, if you talk to one of our custodial members, you're going to have a great interaction where they're going to hopefully tell you a story and engage with you as well. And that's all through consistent training. So
I've got 2 questions that I'm going to lump together here or blend together for you. One is from Juna, and Juna says, how have you kept the morale of the staff and volunteers up during these tough times without visitors? Then the second half is from Robert and says, what kind of training do the employees go through to ensure that guest experience is always maintained? You've touched on that a little, but how are you handling that during COVID? I think people are asking, David.
Yeah, morale is definitely, I think, a challenge for all of our attractions now, because we, just like everybody else, have had to have significant layoffs in our non-animal areas, the areas that weren't serving animals, and that's challenging. So morale is always looking forward. Morale is keeping people focused on our mission and that we're still achieving our mission, even though we don't have visitors, and recognizing our staff for the contributions that they're making. So we've been able to keep the morale of our staff is pretty high with that. And when you bring up training, it's something that's very dear to me when we talk about visitor experience, because that consistent experience that we just talked about is predicated on very, very good, solid training. And when I say training, I don't mean that you go and you do a great training at the beginning of a employee's journey when they join the organization, and then you stop there. Training it's part of the culture. It is part of what you do. It needs to be every day, if not every couple hours. So training needs to happen consistently and constantly. And once it becomes part of that culture, then it self-perpetuates and it keeps growing. And so that has always been our goal, is to make it our culture. Every morning before we start a day, we do what we call a quick tip, which is a discussion about something that might be hot for the day, just that everybody can talk about how they would handle that. So training happens every day. It happens throughout the week, and it's ongoing. I know when I was operating areas, especially in hotels, training sometimes you would think of as being a hassle. Like, gosh, I don't have the labor to pull off to go into a training or to sit in a class, and that gets in the way. But once you make it part of the culture, then it wasn't a hassle. It was actually a benefit when we have people learning about something.
Well, I know if you came out of the Hyatt organization, I was always impressed with it. When I opened King's Dominion in Richmond, Virginia, a long time ago, it was the same time the Hyatt Hotel was opening in Richmond. And we held a lot of meetings and housed a lot of our visitors and guests there. And they would, without hesitation, come to the park. We'd be in a meeting and they say, I've got to tell you about this hotel. The guy putting in the light bulb on the stepladder would say good morning to me, and some of them would actually know my name. And so I know you come from a organization that's heavily steeped and has a lot of background in training, so that carries forward. That's great. We got another one for you here. It says aquariums, zoos, and museums rely heavily on memberships. Going back a little bit, this is from Thomas. He says, how has the membership experience changed and evolved in recent years for these types of operations? Have you noticed a shifting? We're seeing that in the dry theme parks.
And so I think membership equals loyalty. And so so clearly the benefits to an organization of having a solid membership are big in different ways. But so I think it's evolved in just how we've all thought about membership. When I talk to my development staff, my membership staff, they won't say it's free admission that somebody gets. It's loyal admission. They're loyal supporters of ours that come back more than multiple times throughout the year.
Sure.
And so I think that the thinking around membership has evolved. But back to what we were talking about earlier, the ability to connect with individuals before and after a visit, that's where membership really pays off. Is we can continue the conversation with our visitors well after they leave as members, and hopefully get them back again in the future as well. So membership is a way to stay connected. It's a way to stay in communication. It's a way for us to definitely achieve our mission, and it's definitely good for attractions. One last note with that is the visitor journey is somebody buys a ticket. They hopefully come and enjoy their visit with us. They want to stay connected. They become a member. Members become donors. Donors become people that support the organization in the long run. So in a nonprofit like mine, that's definitely part of the visitor journey that's important for us.
He just sent in a second part to this question as you're answering. So I'll just tag this on. It says, excuse me, it says, we've seen recently where Disneyland has stopped their season pass program. They obviously have their own reasons. It's been professed that they think that the program has grown too large, this segment of ticket type. How do you see that happening? Do you see that happening in the aquarium?
I never, no, we in our situation, I don't know enough to comment on Disneyland's, but or Disney's, but for us, membership is part of our goal, is to cultivate a ticket buyer into a membership, and no, it can never get too big for us, because again, our members do become donors, and it continues to reach what we're after, is to stay connected.
Okay, here's one from a fellow I think you might know. It's coming in right now. We'll get this one up. We'll jump this one. This is from a guy named Ted Moulter. You may have heard of him.
I don't know who that is. Yeah.
Never heard of him, man. He said, David, what's the most important action a visitor can take away from a visit to make a difference for the wildlife?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's a lot of things that people can take away to make a difference. And a couple things. One is back to staying connected with us. Hopefully we're making a difference, and by supporting us, you're making a difference as well. So I think that's a big piece of it. The second part is, like I said, many people come to our attraction. This is the first time they've seen the ocean, the first time they've connected with ocean animals, and the first time they realize the importance the ocean plays just in our world, in our atmosphere, and in our own health. And so when we're able to make people feel connected to the animals, connected to the ocean, see the animals, and build any type of connection to that, then it's a win. And that win is when people understand that, then they're going to help to support it in the future as well.
And I think, David, my observation has been over the last 20 years that the young people have really engaged and bought into the conservation and the preservation of wildlife and sea life, all type of the zoological world. And are you seeing that continue to increase in that demographic?
Yeah, it's that is definitely growing. And I think that COVID is going to really play a big part of that as well. Not only for all attractions, but attractions like mine, where as we come out, people realize the richness of an experience where they feel inspired. Just the richness of having a family experience is going to only help us moving into the future, and I think that's going to even build more connections. So that is, people are very passionate about what we stand for, about what we all stand for. In attractions, people are very passionate right now about just having those amazing experiences that all of us in attractions are part of. And I truly believe that's going to help us with our rebound, and that's going to help us as we move forward.
Yeah, I agree. This is from Sean. He said, Dennis just mentioned over the last 10, 20 years, the business has changed. What, David, do you think the aquarium of the future is going to look like? Great question.
That is a great question. I think the day of passive experience is gone, where you come and just either just look through a window or just pass by and see things. The day of immersive experience is here. And so that's not only for aquariums, that's for our attractions in a lot of ways. And so what does the future mean? It means that we're going to be innovating and creative with creating programming, creating new ways to immerse our visitors in what they're seeing in front, and we're not going to just consider them to be spectators.
Hands-on, immersive, touch-feely, right?
Hands-on, immersive, touch-feely, programmatic elements. What we're working on now with our deep sea experience is gonna, we're making sure that we're capturing all those emotions. It's definitely around emotions, understand all the emotions that somebody has, and making sure that that you tap all those emotions. You can't do that without engaging visitors as they go through, and that human connection as well helps to engage those visitors and make it non-passive.
Well, a good friend of mine who operates the Newport Aquarium, Eric Rose. I'm sure you know Eric. You may have worked with him at Disney years ago. When the aquarium first opened, I had the opportunity to invest, and I was one of the owners, a small piece, but an owner. And ITPS was the first management company. We actually managed the aquarium for the first 3 years. We learned a lot about that sector of the industry, and we saw just what you said, that immersive, hands-on touchy-feely was coming. And Eric and his team have done an amazing job of extending and expanding that here in Cincinnati. I mean, we're on a river, you're on an ocean, but the experience is the same for the guests. They want to reach in the tank. They want it to be safe. You do, we do, they do. But it's been an amazing experience that's been watching that area grow.
It's funny when you bring up Eric, because you're right. We not only did we both work at Disney, but we think we pretty much overlapped, and we both followed pretty much the same career paths. And so it's a lot of fun when Eric and I talk about our history together. You know, one thing with, of course, COVID is we're not going to come out having people touch things, and it's going to change a little bit, which is just going to be a new challenge for us, is how to keep everybody feel those immersive experiences without actually physically touching it. So we're going to touch all the other emotions.
This next question, David comes in, has no name. He said, Mr. Rosenberg, what would your main advice be to a developer who is considering building an aquarium from the ground up in a brand new market?
I think the biggest is to do your research, make sure you know the market that you're moving into, as well as, of course, aquariums are not inexpensive to operate, and so to make sure you understand that as well. But through market research, through data collection, through working with great people that can help with that, then you'll know where to come into that. And the other part is to build an aquarium looking towards the future, not to what aquariums were 10 or 20 years ago. So always be building attractions looking towards the future.
David, we're getting right to the hour. I've got more questions than we have time. So what I always ask our guests to do is we'll send the remaining questions to you. I'm going to give you one more. And then if you would be so kind to get back with us with your answers, we'll put them in the ITPS Daily News and you can respond to them that way. This one is, as a result of you being chairman of IAAPA, have you seen IAAPA grow its area of responsibility into the zoological and aquarium area?
Yeah, I definitely think that we are all looking at IAAPA as an association, as an opportunity to bring all attraction types together, and the importance that we all learn from each other. I think we all opened our eyes even wider to that over the last couple of years. And I can learn just as much. I can learn from Disney or from a theme park. There's a lot that they can teach me, and I hope that there's a lot that I can teach them as well. And I think that just made the community, while it's a huge community, it's made it smaller so that we all learn from each other. And that's one of the benefits of an IAAPA.
Good. I'm going to give you one more because this is a good question. It has always been known that shorter lived experiences, less time in an experiences, I think what she's asking, this is from Caroline, have resulted in less generation in food and beverage. Do you see food and beverage becoming a bigger part of the aquarium and the zoological industry in the future, because it's a way we can build our revenues?
Oh, interesting. And I think the answer is absolutely yes. Food and beverage merchandise are definitely have been a growing segment and will continue to grow. I think that the burden on us is to be more creative than we've been in the past when it comes to food and beverage. In our case, we're trying to be very creative on sustainability and food and farm to fork. And so it's creating a lot more opportunity to be creative, but with creativity becomes more opportunity for financial success as well. So yes, it's going to grow. The way we operate those areas might be a little bit different, especially in the immediate future, but that creativity is going to benefit all of us.
Good. Well, David, I want to thank you very much for joining us today and taking time away from your family and the slopes. Remember, when you go back out, when you think you can do one more run, stop. That's good advice that your legs will appreciate. So thank you very much for being with us today and sharing your observations on this important sector of our industry. It's a wonderful area, and it's thought highly of domestically and internationally.
Well, Dennis, thank you. It's it's so great to be part of the attractions community, working so close with all the attractions and manufacturers and suppliers, all of us, that we all come together to make what we have for our visitors. So I really appreciate you including me. Thank you.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. I want to remind everybody that our upcoming guests, we have Francine Gonzalez, Chief Experience Officer with Whitewater West. She's going to be coming on March the 10th. And following Francine will be, we have Gerardo Artiega and Marcelo Goodclass from South America coming on to talk about what's going on down in South America. As I said in my hot topics, they've been and continue to experience problems, and we couldn't think of two better people to bring to the I'm for Fun podcast than Gerardo and Marcelo. And then on April the 7th, we've got a great guy, Andreas Anderson from Liseberg. Talk about a guy dealing with problematic issues. He left a park, went to another country in a park that was operating, and came back and then was shut down. And Liseberg has been shut down for a full year. So he's a veteran, 20-year veteran of the industry, and been very active in our strategic planning and looking forward in our as an industry advisor and operator. So we're really anxious to have Andreas Anderson on in the future. So in closing, I always like to say, if we don't have fun, how can we sell fun? And we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. And we work in a great industry, as David has just demonstrated. We don't put smoke in the skies, and we don't pollute the streams. At the end of the day, what we really do is we put smiles on people's faces, and we create memories that last a lifetime. So, David, thank you again. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us on our next Time for Fun podcast. Thanks so much.